Spring is here, snow is fading fast, and it's a great time to get out in the lawn and start prepping for a great lawn care season. If you're trying to have an awesome lawn this year, then spring is the time to put in some extra work and set yourself up for success. I'm going to show you what I do with my yard, and it's all really simple stuff that can be done in a few easy steps. And the first thing I do is get all the junk off the grass. My lot has tons of trees that shed leaves and sticks all winter long. No matter how good of a job I do with fall cleanup, once the snow melts in the spring, it looks like I didn't really do anything at all. I like to start with a backpack leaf blower and go after the biggest pile of leaves first. My leaves always collect along the fence line, so I'll start there and I'll basically leaf blow the whole yard. I didn't get a lot of snow this year and the leaves were pretty dry, so blowing out the whole yard really isn't that hard. Plus, my neighbors love when I rip a leaf blower wide open for a couple hours. I'm possibly the worst person to live next to. It's a great time to hit up the garden beds and get those cleared out too. I'm walking through my fern garden now, and it's pretty much the only time of the year that I can walk through here like that, because when the ferns pop up, they are aggressive. One added benefit of the leaf blower is that it helps stand the grass back up, and being really early in the season, everything's still really wet, muddy, and soft. And a rake or a dethatcher might be a little too much right about now. I keep my lawn implements stored behind my garage in the woods, like any good homeowner does. And today is a great day because I'm breaking out my absolute favorite pull behind attachment, the 44-inch AgriFab lawn sweeper. And yes, I have a backup 44-inch AgriFab lawn sweeper in case one breaks down. You gotta be prepared. I'm like basically the Boy Scout of lawn care. If you don't have one of these things, I highly recommend picking one up, especially if you have a larger yard like I do. There's still a lot of crap on the grass that the leaf blower just isn't great at, but the sweeper will handle with no problem. Look, everyone knows that sweepers are good at picking up leaves, but what most people don't realize is how good they are at picking up sticks. You see all these trees? I've got sticks for days. If the wind blows ever so slightly, a whole bunch of sticks, leaves, and bark come raining down onto my grass. And that can be a real pain to pick up. Not with the sweeper though, that thing will pick up almost anything. You can see the collection hopper full of junk, and it's usually my nature to overfill the thing so that it's too heavy and I can't even dump it, so I have to unload it by hand first. That's what I'm doing here. This thing picks up so much debris, it's kind of hard to imagine that all that crap was just sitting out on my lawn. There is one area of my yard that was dry enough to rake, and it always gets matted down because it's kind of in the shade and the snow always hangs on the longest in that spot, so it needed just a little bit of help. I'm using a Groundskeeper 2, and it's a super lightweight thatch rake with spring tines that works really great at digging in and removing that layer of thatch and fluffing up the grass a little bit. Hand raking is brutal work, and doing my entire yard like this would be insane and largely unnecessary. But this one area was an isolated problem spot, and I was able to hit it real quick and get it looking a lot better. You can see how much this rake pulls out in a very short amount of time. And hey, real quick, all the tools and products that I'm using in this video will be linked in the video description. So if you see me using something and you want more information, click into the video description, there will be a link for you. Moving on to the most divisive part of the video, and no, we're not talking politics or religion, we're talking about the use of a lawn roller. Now, a lot of people really don't like these things, and there are some legitimate reasons for that. Soil compaction is the most common, and questioning whether or not they actually work is also a fair criticism. My opinion is that the residential lawn rollers, like the one I'm using in this video, really aren't heavy enough to cause major compaction issues. I mean, my lawnmower itself weighs more than the roller does, and it's got a narrower track or footprint, so if I'm getting compaction issues, it's not because of the lawn roller that I used once in the springtime, it's because I'm driving over the yard every week with my tractor as I mow the grass. Now, a roller like this isn't going to dramatically change the levelness of your yard, but if you live in an area that has a lot of freezing and thawing, then you'll probably get frost heaves or random areas of your yard that will be raised, bumpy, or uneven in the spring after winter. And if you can't tell from the way I talk, I'm from Minnesota, and freezing and thawing is kind of our jam. Another thing that I struggle with is voles. I hate voles. That's voles with a V. They're small mice-like rodents that tunnel under the snow and dig and burrow in the dirt, and they can leave your lawn looking absolutely ripped up. Every spring I have vole damage, and it's really hard to do anything about because they're active underneath the snow all winter long. The lawn roller is great for smoothing out vole damage or frost heaves, and that's all I'm trying to do with this step. Rollers come in metal and plastic versions. I prefer the plastic because it'll never rust. They can be filled with water or sand, but my preference is water so that it's easy easy to fill and empty, and then it's lighter for moving around and storing. The next step is somewhat weather dependent, and it's the application of a pre-emergent. Applying a pre-emergent is possibly the most important step in spring lawn care prep because it sets you up for an entire weed-free season. Pre-emergents prevent weed seeds from germinating, so all those dandelions and other crap that magically pops up out of nowhere, yeah, that won't happen with a pre-emergent app in the spring. The weather is a factor for two reasons. The first is soil temp. Weed seeds start germinating right around the 55-degree mark. So you want to be monitoring your soil temp in order to time it right. Go too early and your application won't last the entire summer. But go too late and those weed seeds will start germinating and you've missed your window because they're already growing. Now keep in mind, I'm talking about soil temp, which is a lagging indicator of air temp, generally speaking. Just because you have 1 or 2 days that reach 70, it doesn't mean that your soil temp is warm enough yet. I use a cheapy meat thermometer that I take readings with around my yard. But if you aren't a total weirdo like I am, you can use an online reference tool that I have linked in the video description. It's a free site that you enter in your zip code and it gives you current soil temps, plus 5-day averages, and historical data from years past. It's a great resource, and remember, you're looking for a 5-day average that's approaching that 50-degree threshold. The second reason weather is a factor for pre-emergent is because they need to be watered in. If you're a broke boy like I am, Mother Nature is your irrigation. I don't have fancy in-ground sprinklers, and moving a hose around a yard this size is a real bummer. I like to wait until I see a good chance of rain in the forecast, and then I try to make my application right beforehand. In this video, I got up early on a Sunday to get my pre-emergent down at 6:30 in the morning to beat the rain. Still better than moving a hose around. I'm going to be using one of the most popular pre-emergents on the market, Stonewall from Lesco, and the active ingredient is prodiamine. I'm going to be applying it with my trusty broadcast spreader from Scott's. One safety tip I gotta share with you real quick is to wear a pair of muck boots during this process. You really don't want this stuff on your pants or shoes, and wearing a tall pair of boots keeps you clean and protected. I have this pair from High C that I got from Amazon, and they're great. I can get them all muddy and contaminated, and then they easily wash off by hitting them with the pressure washer, and then they look brand new. Again, there's a link in the description if you want to see what I'm talking about. Now, if you're using a popular spreader, it's probably going to be listed on the back of the bag with an application setting, and that keeps things super easy. You can see that the bag is recommending a range of applications from 4 to 6.5. I'm going to go somewhere in the middle and try to be at 5. Now, sometimes coverage can be difficult with a spreader because walking in straight lines is hard, especially if you've been drinking. Another application tip is I'll take my setting of 5 and I'll cut it in half, so 2.5. Didn't even need a calculator. Then I'll make my first pass lengthwise across the whole yard, followed immediately by a second pass going perpendicular to the first pass. This 2-pass method going in different directions is great for getting even coverage without worrying about heavy spots, striping, or other complications. I finished up my app just as the rain was moving in. There's always something satisfying about perfect timing coming together. Hey, if you like this video, think about subscribing to the channel. I make content like this all the time. Thanks for watching and enjoy the lawn care season.